You know, it took me a little while to figure out what I wanted to call this talk. I got hung up for a while on the period of time we're going to be covering. A while. I started to feel a little vain about the subject matter. Got a little whimsical along the way. And there was a period of time where I contemplated trying to submit the longest talk title I could think that might get accepted to RailsConf. But I ended up here. If you're familiar with me on RubyConf or RailsConf stages, you might know me as the person that built the informed consent application for the food scientists, or maybe as that person that worked at the company with perfect code. You might know me as the startup founder who can tell you when it's sweater weather, or the person that toured the country with a band. I might be your MBA professor who gave you your degree. Maybe you know me as the person that wrote their own search engine, or the person that can play guitar like one of the greatest who have ever done it and translate it into code for you. The truth is, none of those experiences that I've talked about on stage are actually true. Sorry, everybody. But today I'm going to talk about me. So hi, my name's Kevin. I live in Massachusetts, but I've never written a Ruby parser, and I've never contributed to an alternative implementation of Ruby. I'm the other Kevin. There's only 3 of us. I'm going to talk about RailsConf. And I'm going to do so using a paradigm that a lot of us might be familiar with. And to get started, we need to go back to 2014. I'm working at a company building internal tooling for them, and we're kicking off a new project, and my manager at the time says, you know what, Kevin, I bet we can build this faster and better using Rails. And I said, that sounds great, Ari, but what's a Rails? And he gave me the time and space to work with it, and we did build that application in Rails. And along the way, I built up my understanding of what it meant to work with Rails and where to find information about Rails, like all the different websites I could look at, and books I could buy, and courses I can subscribe to. Of course, by building the app itself, I was gaining experience, and I knew that there were people using this thing, but I didn't know where to find them. See, where I was right now, I couldn't satisfy this validation. So I went looking. And I found a thing called RailsConf. So I asked my company if they'd support me in going. And they said, yeah. They paid for my ticket, my travel, my hotel, and all the food that I ate there. It's pretty awesome. And they did this by calling it professional development, which were the magic words I didn't know to say. This was a while ago, I'll remind you. Your situation might be a little different. But regardless of the conference reimbursement policy available to you, I hope that you advocate for yourself. I will take a step back and know that advocating for yourself can be scary and sometimes unsafe. And it's important to know when it's the right time to deploy it. But one thing I do want to dispel is the concern that advocacy means asking for money, because that's not true. There are lots of ways you can advocate for yourself that don't show up in a company's financial statement as easily as asking for a ticket to RailsConf. Advocating for yourself might mean asking to have meetings that happen at a time that work well for you. Maybe you're a person that likes all your meetings all at once, or you need time in between to decompress and get ready for the next one. Advocating for yourself might mean asking for pairing sessions so that you can share what you know with someone else and you can learn what they know, not only about what you do, but how you do it. Advocating for yourself might mean asking to be put on that preferred project so that you can demonstrate your strengths or have it provide a growth opportunity for you. For me, advocating for myself brought me to RailsConf. And it was there that I fell in love with Ruby and became enamored with how many other people seemed to like this thing. How many people are familiar with Sandy Metz's talk from this conference using the Gilded Rose kata? Who was in the room? I didn't raise my hand for that second one. I was in a different session. I didn't know who Sandy was. I didn't know who anyone was, that's why I was there. But I needed a way to figure it out, and I had one trick up my sleeve. It was playoff season for hockey, and the team I support was in, and they were going to be playing a game during the conference, and I was hoping maybe I could find someone else who'd want to go watch the game with me, and then we'd have two things to talk about, Rails and hockey, and that's more than one. I just needed to find these willing participants, and I could have wandered the halls just yelling and telling everyone what I was doing, but that's not really my style. I'm not that great with people, even though I'm standing in front of a lot of them right now. So instead, I turned to a little-known site at the time called Twitter.com. It was this place where at the time you could make short messages of 140 characters or less. And if you included a hashtag, someone who doesn't follow you but does follow the hashtag might see your message. And this worked. I did find someone who wanted to see the game, but our paths never crossed and we didn't even meet up that night. We did agree to meet for breakfast the next morning, and we succeeded in doing that. And after breakfast, but before the conference programming started, I found myself staring at the job board. Not because I was looking for a job, I just wanted to get a better understanding of what the companies were that were using this thing. Some of them I had heard of before, and many more I hadn't. A lot of them were missing vowels where they very obviously should have been, and it must have been super embarrassing for whoever wrote it on the board. But one of the companies stood out because they mentioned that they were in my area, and I thought, hey, what a great opportunity to not only meet people who do the thing that I do, but also do it near where I do it. Just needed to find a way to find them. So I did the same thing. And I messaged their corporate account and just wanted to see what would happen. And they got back to me and tagged every single person on the team that was there representing the company. They introduced me without me having to do it. To almost everyone. I had already met one of them for breakfast that morning and didn't even know it. And this group was very kind, and they let me join them and tag along for the rest of the conference, and they were smart and they were solving interesting problems. And I decided to take a risk, and on the flight home, I filled out the application because after all, they were hiring. I didn't submit it until we got back because I'll remind you this was 2014. If you think airplane Wi-Fi is bad now, we were just happy to be flying in a tube in the sky. I went through the interview process, and I got a job there. And I went back to RailsConf the next year, this time as a member of that company. And I did that by extending myself, but not in ways that were beyond my capacity. And by making those small changes, I went from having a job as a software developer to a career as a Rubyist. So how are you going to extend yourself? Maybe you could meet someone new. Did you sign up for the lightning talks yesterday? Have you seen the roving bands of podcasters looking to do hallway track interviews? One of them could be you. Are you just open to meeting new people for dinner tonight? How you choose to engage is up to you. Now, having been to RailsConf a few times, I became particularly interested in the speakers that had all these wonderful, wise things to say on stage, and I started to wonder if I could ever sucker anyone into listening to what I had to say on stage. I still do every time. But I didn't know how to do that. Logistically, I didn't even understand how speakers came to be speakers. I didn't know if it was just invite only, or if there was some underground scene of people trading slide decks to find out the new hotness on the conference circuit. I didn't know if people just rushed the stage when the first however many people got to give their talk. It turns out at Ruby Central events and a lot of other conferences, there's a thing called a call for proposals, where you can fill out some information on what you want to speak on, people review it, and that's how to decide who will be part of the program. And what makes up this proposal might change from conference to conference, but the general idea is roughly the same. You want some snazzy title, a couple of sentences to convince people for coming. Thank you all for being here. It worked. Then you want some more details to let the program committee know exactly what they're getting themselves into so you don't surprise them. And it's always good to include some information about why this talk is a good fit for this conference and why you're the right person to give it. So I sent a proposal in, and I got rejected. So I did it again. I made a new one, sent it in, and I got rejected. So I did it again. This time, I looked back at the proposals I'd already written, took in the feedback that I got from them, put some new fun twists on it, added in some new information about what I knew about what made for a great proposal, and I sent that in. And I got rejected. So I did it again, and I got rejected. And I did it again, and I got rejected. But this time was a little different, because 10 days earlier, I had gotten another email. At a lot of conferences, you can submit more than one proposal. Sometimes it's just a numbers game. And one of my other talks had gotten accepted. I did it. I had done this thing that I had set out for years. I didn't just stop the first time someone said, "Not right now." It turns out there's lots of reasons that proposals, even good ones, get rejected from conferences. They could have gotten a lot of proposals about a similar topic. We are, after all, at RailsConf and not Active Job Conf. Right? It could just not be the right mix for what the program's looking for. It's not a reflection on you and the work that you put in, it's just what works best for the conference. Speaking about CFPs here, but the point is more broad. If there are things that are valuable to you, if there are things that are important to you, it's worth it to continue working on that in spite of what other signals you get outside. The work itself is valuable. So I had this proposal. It was supposed to be a talk. And I found myself in a familiar situation. Turns out they're pretty different. So I put a lot of time into it. I put weeks into it. I expended a lot of energy getting that talk ready. And I did that not only because this was an important career milestone for me, but because I was hoping that speaking would be a sort of cheat code for my conference experience. You see, at RailsConf, when you sign in, you get a badge. And if you're a speaker, sometimes your badge says that. And I wanted that. Not for the status symbol, but it is pretty cool. I wanted it so that people would see that on my badge and ask me a question about my talk. Because I was really prepared to answer any questions about my talk. And when they asked me a question about my talk, all that I had to focus on was the right tone of voice to use, the right facial expressions to make, where to look, how to make eye contact, not too much eye contact, and everything else about how you actually talk to a person and not what to talk about. I was ready for that part. And it worked. Speaking was the cheat code I had hoped for. But I spent so much time thinking about myself that my preparation ended the second my last slide hit the screen. And even though I had spent years in the audience looking up to people, up here, I didn't think that other people might say anything nice to me after. Like, good job. And that was awesome. Chasing that feeling became my driving force professionally for the next couple of years. I worked at that by speaking some more, started a blog, shameless plug for kevinjmurphy.com, make it your homepage today. I was a guest on some podcasts. I would review proposals for people who were sending them to conferences in the hopes that it would be just a little more likely that it got accepted. And when they ultimately did get accepted, I helped them through the preparation process to help them feel more comfortable and confident on stage. I even became a committer to Ruby itself based on information I'd learned while preparing a different talk. And in 2024, 10 years after my first RailsConf, I was honored to serve on the program committee, helping to select the talks and put together the best possible experience for all of the attendees. So why are you here? Maybe you're looking to grow your skills. Maybe you're looking to learn about some new technology. Maybe there's something at work that you've been having a hard time with, and you want to bring back and show everyone how much more productive you are. That's awesome. I hope you found some good sessions here that help you with that. Maybe you're looking for a new job. I hope you stood up earlier and you've gotten some good leads. Maybe you're a speaker That's awesome. Congratulations. Whatever the reason that brought you to RailsConf, I want you to think about what value you've gotten out of the experience so far. Have you achieved your goal? Has there been other benefits that you weren't really expecting? You know, Ruby Friends is more than just a great hashtag, though it is a pretty good one. It's a community through which I've met people that live in my neighborhood and that people who live across the world. And we meet at events like these, but we keep in touch beyond that. I've been at a wedding of someone I met at Ruby events, at a table surrounded by people who I met at Ruby events, who are all here and better be in this room or have a really good excuse. Being at Ruby conferences like RailsConf has certainly made me a better developer and better at my job. But more importantly, it's made me a better person, more aware of who I am, how I exist in the world, and what I need to get out of it. So what are you going to do today? We got lunch coming up after another session. You could find someone new and ask them what talks they saw today. Find a maintainer for a tool that you use, thank them, and give them a specific example about how the tool that they maintain has made your life better. Talk to the staff and tell them you're having a great time. They're the reason that this all happened. So, I've got to talk about the elephant in the room. With RailsConf going away, does that mean that every opportunity that I've spent this entire time up on stage talking about is also going away? I don't think that's true. Sure, as far as we know, there won't be any more RailsConfs. But next year, if you're looking for a similar experience, we will have RubyConf, and I hope you'll join us there, as long as it's safe for you to do so. And there are lots of ways that you can choose to grow in this community and that you can help grow the community. If you're enjoying this conference thing, there are lots of ways to stay involved. Buying a ticket and showing up is a big one. It helps make the event financially viable, and also conferences are better when people show up. You can be a volunteer and ask to help make it actually happen. Maybe submit a proposal. And if you want to do the conference thing on hard mode, just make your own. How hard could it be? It's really hard, and I'll never do it, but you all should. The same applies for a meetup where you might be targeting folks in your local area or by some other affinity group. If you're a person who browses the World Wide Web, and particularly the world of social media, drop a like on any posts that are impactful to you, share them with your followers, and comment to keep the discussion going. You can send actual messages to human beings. Tell the person that wrote the blog post that fixed your problem at work the other day that they helped you, whether they wrote it 2 days ago or 20 years ago. Tell your favorite podcaster that you're in a parasocial relationship with them. Just try not to be weird about it, or any weirder than opening with, "Hey, I'm in a parasocial relationship with you." Tell the person that writes the newsletter that faithfully shows up in your inbox that the work that they do helps you stay informed about what's going on. Tell our streamers that what they do is incredibly brave, and how sharing their thought process has helped you inform how you do your work. And of course, for our YouTubers, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. These are all ways of encouraging each other, and it's incredibly important. It might sound like the people that do these things have this giant megaphone to share all this information with everyone, and they must have a deluge of feedback coming back to them. I'm by no means internet famous, but on my small corner of the internet, it's really quiet. It's exceedingly rare that I found out that an actual human being read anything that I wrote. I can look at analytics, but I don't know if that's an actual human eyeball or just a bot scraping my traffic. So encourage each other. It helps the community continue, and it helps promote the activity that you want to see in it. As communities grow and develop over time, we need to make sure that they're resilient and can live beyond a particular institution like RailsConf, and can grow outside of the shadow of any individual, no matter how loud they might be, or prominent they might be, or well-platformed they might be. It's important to make sure that the Ruby community stays healthy. If you're going through all of this and still finding yourself wanting some more tangible examples about how you could get involved, I have a partial list for you. Locally, there's the Philly RB meetup. They have regularly scheduled events, and they also have virtual events that people from around the world come to. I've been to a few of them, and I think there's been a maximum of one person actually in Philadelphia, and everyone else has been from around the world. If you want to find your own meetup or conference, go to rubyconferences.org. That is merging with rubyevents.org, which currently already has a treasure trove of information about past events, including videos. If you identify as a woman or non-binary Rubyist, I highly recommend being involved with WNB-RB. And of course, we have the Slack channel that we're all using here at the conference today that will persist beyond RailsConf so we can stay in touch with each other. As you're thinking through all of these options and what might work for you, it can seem a little daunting. And that's true. You have to decide how and if you're going to put yourself out there, and what's going to work for you, and what's not going to work for you. But you don't have to do it alone. We're all here to help each other. The same is true even for this talk. Even though I'm the person up here on stage saying all of these words, it couldn't have happened without the very direct support from some people and over a decade worth of help from so many others who have lended their mentorship and, most importantly, their friendship. So I'm ending a little early, and I want you to use that time to make a new connection or build on an existing one, because it just might change your life. So thanks, Ruby Central. Thank you, RailsConf. Goodbye.